Hello, everybody, and welcome to episode 6 of the first Racing Together webinar series. We've had a really brilliant series so far, and it could be one of the most interesting topics so far of the 6. Today's webinar focuses on the enduring power of racehorses to help people exploring the horse-human connection. And you can ask us questions throughout the webinar. You can ask us, just put them in the chat box, and if they pop up, we'll ask them to our great panelists, and we'll try and answer them as best as we can. The webinar, of course, will be recorded, and you can view it online and listen to it on YouTube and as a podcast link through the Racing Together website. And of course, you can sign up to the newsletter to hear about any future series that we might be doing. But when it ends, at the very end, there will be a survey that will pop up as well, where you can leave some feedback and tell us what topics you might like us to cover in the future. So don't forget to fill that out and to sign up to the newsletter. So we'll start off straight away. We've got a really great panel for you. I think we're going to be stuck for time to listen to all of the interesting opinions that we're going to have on this great topic. But we'll start off with Alex Shaw of Greatwood. And Alex, can you introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Yeah, of course. My name's Alex Shaw. I'm the Education and Wellbeing Lead at Greatwood Charity. So I run all the alternative provision educational programs that we offer here. We are Wiltshire based, so mainly Wiltshire schools, but we also work with surrounding counties as well. And the charity itself is obviously, for those that you don't know, we kind of retrain and rehome former racehorses as well. So we've currently got, I think it's 24 on site. Yeah, so big numbers, and yeah, that's who we are.
Of course, there's not many people who haven't heard of the name Greatwood. It's synonymous with the excellent care that you give to our previous champions. And we've also got Jennifer Toomey with us. Jennifer, can you tell us a little bit about your work with racehorses?
Yeah, so we set up a charity called Racing to Relate to look exactly at this whole subject of thoroughbreds going from racing into an equine-assisted environment. So we're on a journey of discovery and finding out exactly what it takes for a racehorse to become an equine-assisted horse and to help people. So we're looking at great programs like Greatwood, like Ebony Horse Club, and programs around the world, just to find out what it is about the thoroughbred that's working for them in those programs. And we've embarked on a really exciting research project with the University of Bristol, just to answer this whole question, you know, the selection, the welfare and suitability of thoroughbreds in this role. So we're very excited to be here and to learn and share with everyone today.
Well, thanks for joining us. And we also have Joe Foster. And Joe, you're a racehorse trainer based up in the Yorkshire Dales.
I am. I train a small yard of national hunt horses. But my particular interest in this subject comes from during National Racehorse Week. We actually went out, instead of letting people come into the yard, we went out and took the horses out to people who couldn't get into the yard. So we took the racehorses to care homes, we took them to primary schools, we took them to residential homes, all locally. And I was kind of taken aback by the response. So I am really interested in this subject. I also did a postgraduate sports psychology course at Leeds University, which finished last year. And we covered in that, there was equine-assisted studies that obviously we were covering. And my dissertation was based around the racehorses as well as equine assistance. So it's a subject that is very close to my heart. And I do think we have a lot to offer. So.
Well, no, I think you're definitely on the right track with that. And we also have Kweilyn and Quillen. We've all heard recently about the great work that the Ebony Horse Club are doing and all of that you're doing there.
Hi, I'm Kweilyn, and Ebony, for those of you who haven't heard about us, we're a youth centre, but we use equine therapy when we work with the youth. Do horse management, horse riding, and also youth activities. I am an educator by trade, but I have a very strong affinity to community service, hence work being the vice chair at Ebony. And we support roughly 140 young people every half term, I would say, during term time.
No, we have a great panelist, and all involved in different areas of trying to explore this communication, but with racehorses. And Joe, I'll just come back to you first, because you said, you know, we've talked about National Racehorse Week. You mentioned it there. A lot of people had open days and brought people from the community into their yards. But I love the idea that you brought your racehorses out into the community and opened it up even more to the public. How did that go? And how, you know, a lot of people would have worries about the temperament of racehorses. How did they behave, and how did people react to them?
Well, I mean, we've only got, literally, I have 12 horses in training here. I mean, we've got about 20 on site, but we've got 12 in training. And if I could find one that was quiet enough and well behaved enough to take, I mean, it doesn't necessarily even need to be one that's fit and ready to run. But the staff were really, really keen. And there was so much. I just felt if we opened the yard up, all we were going to get was the same people who go to the racing days, who go to the open days. And I thought the only way we could touch base with people who probably don't even like look at social media was to get out there. And so we did it with the primary school, secondary school. We did 2 care homes, we did a residential home, and it was mixed in both. The secondary school was brilliant because we took lots of other stuff along. We put, you know, each one was slightly different, aimed at slightly different kids and a slightly different audience. But it was amazing. The social media impact, everything, it was phenomenal, really. And so many people have been in touch since then that in the wider community, asking if they can be involved. Can we go and look at their school? There was some places, if we'd had a bit more sort of planning and time, there was places in with sort of socially disadvantaged kids in Bradford that we wanted to get to, but we just couldn't. We could only fit so much in the week. That's why we also went out carol singing and did the same again. So it's I just think if we can do it, and we've only got 12 racehorses, then I think everybody will have. Every trainer would have the opportunity to send, either they don't go themselves, but they could send people out there, you know, and the places we went, we did risk assessments, but more importantly, it really helped those people, especially after COVID.
Yeah, I've been present when they bring the ex-racehorses. I was there when they brought Neptune Cologne to Alderhay Children's Hospital, and the draw that racehorses have, that horses in general have for people of all ages and sizes is amazing. And I'm sure, Alex, you must see that through your work with Greatwood as well, with the work in the community. What sort of impact do you think it has on people when you can bring racehorses out closer to them?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything Joe said. It's an amazing thing to see. Along the same lines, we took one of our residents, Uzbek, quite a well-known, quite successful racehorse, but actually he's one of our older horses, and he's just so easygoing. He's one of the students' favourites. And we took him down to one of our local care homes. And because of where we're based, there's a lot of trainers or yards in the area, or not necessarily racing, but there's lots of kind of equine-based people around here. And some of those residents had experienced, you know, in their younger days, working either on the yards, or one of the ladies with us actually was talking about the dray horses from the brewery, and it was triggering those memories. So we took him down there once a week for 4 weeks in the end, so across the month. And just the reactions from them, they were looking forward to every week. You know, they come out and they'd have a go grooming him. You know, even some days it was a bit cold and a bit miserable, but they just put blankets on, you know, wheeled out in wheelchairs, and they were just grooming. It was really, really positive to see. And actually, we're hoping to do that again come the spring. And seeing, obviously, he was going out from his kind of safe environment, if you like, going out to this care home. That's, you know, it's fairly close to a road, but he was just so easygoing, and that really helped with those residents as well. You could see them, you know, this is relaxing, it's calming, really helping their mental health and their kind of well-being. And actually, the feedback from the home afterwards, for the week between, they would have conversations over tea and coffee in the morning. So, you know, when's he coming back? What we're going to do this week? And, you know, it's something to get them engaged. And we see that as well with the young people that come up here. So we have a number of schools, primary schools and secondary schools that send students to us. And these are students that don't thrive in mainstream education for various reasons. And they come here and you can almost see the relief just kind of, it lifts. And they come onto the yard and, you know, they get stuck in, they're grooming, they're health checking, they're mucking out. And that all leads to conversations. It lets them kind of open up a bit, and we can have, normally they're talking to the horses, they're not talking to us, you know, and that's really encouraging that these are big animals. You know, some of these students, they're 5 years old, they're small people. And to see them, their confidence grow over the sessions they're here and the impact those horses have it's amazing. Yeah, just some of them have never been near a horse before. You know, even the Shetland ponies are something new to them. You know, we've got a couple of old Shetlands here, but for these big race horses, as Joe said, it's kind of, you know, we're lucky we've got a number of horses that we know are suitable to use. And that engagement is really encouraging. And as you said, Joe, I think everyone should be kind of working with horses, sending people to us. Yes, yeah.
It's almost therapeutic for us to see the reaction and the effect that horses can have on other people. You know, we've been lucky to be surrounded by them, most of us, but it's amazing to see that reaction from any age group. And Jennifer, that's behind the reason that you created Racing to Relate. Can you tell us a little bit more about the impact that you've seen that horses can have on people?
Yeah, so we've been looking at, you know, obviously our first stage of the research is just looking at what's going on in the equine-assisted world. And it's so impressive. There's so many different types of programs, working with different types of people, from young people, veterans, children with autism. There's a program we've seen in the States, Square Peg, where they've it's a ridden program. It's extraordinary, actually, and really touching to see how the impact these horses are having on young children that can't communicate verbally, non-verbal, and seeing how their interaction with the horse, and that it's so many different things. It's the interaction, it's the movement, and seeing children going from being non-verbal to being able to communicate on certain aspects is exceptional. And trying to understand what it is that makes that magic happen is what we're very much looking into. It's fascinating to see how taking the racehorse into the community is having a big impact too. It's breaking down this idea of a racehorse not being suitable for other careers. And actually we've got a really interesting pilot in Northern Ireland with June Burgess. And some of her comments about particularly with the veteran groups that she's been working with, and just the impressive size and presence of the racehorse being an important part of that work she's doing.
You know, I definitely agree. And Kweilyn, you've seen that in an urban setting as well through the Ebony Horse Club. You've seen the difference they can make, and can you judge that the impact on a child when they meet a horse for the first time?
Oh, absolutely. When you see these children, and as Alex said, these are tiny people. You know, they come at age 5, 6, 7, 8, and they're in awe. They look at this giant beast of an animal, but they run up and they hug it. And you see them hugging and kissing this animal. And exactly as Alex said, they're not speaking to us. We're entirely invisible because they're there and they only have eyes for the horse. And they all have their favorites. They can't wait to come off to school. But all of this, it increases their communication skills, their empathy. And at Ebony, we give them safety and security, a sense of belonging. So a lot of our young people is those who need us the most. And they have risk of exclusion, living in low quality housing, but attending Ebony and being with these horses, it helps all the dimensions of their well-being. Their emotional well-being is assisted, their environmental. When they're doing the mucking out and the stable and looking after the stables, the intellectual well-being is also being challenged. They make friends, not only with the horses, but with other youths at the club. Social well-being. So it's wonderful to see the whole holistic approach of the horses and the equine therapy.
We have a message from Andrew Pellis who wants to say to everybody, he said, loving the discussion. I think from Joe and Alex's comments, it is important for society as a whole to reconnect with the countryside. And I think this is part of that process. I help at the Rothschild Yard at the National Horse Racing Museum, and the horses are always the biggest draw, from big bucks and Mike Bite to twice race maidens. They are all stars. And I think that's what we're all saying, is that it doesn't have to be a superstar racehorse. That makes no difference to a child how many races they won. It's more the presence of an actual horse. As the quote goes, there's something about the outside of a horse that's good for the inside of a man. And I think it's even more important when you consider a child. And we've talked about what racing is doing and how good thoroughbreds can be for this job, even, you know, though historically they might have been known, their reputation might have been for being flighty and too temperamental. But what more can we do? Joe, maybe we'll start with you, because you've been so passionate and looked outside of the box. But what more can racing be doing, and what can racing gain from doing more?
Well, it can probably savor its reputation a little bit. I do think that we have so much to offer, and I do think National Racehorse Week should be, to me, when it was brought up, the idea with Richard Phillips, I just saw it as an opportunity to give back, and I sort of assumed that everybody would be the same, rather than another sort of way to just attract new owners. It was kind of, we need to start giving back. We need to start educating the children. We need to start showing we are approachable and we aren't some sort of exclusive club. And although we're trying to do that, it's very much internal. And I do feel by getting out there and with the horses and showing people and going to schools and explaining it and touching base with, there's so much we can offer, as you know, with the ex-racehorses. But even like when we took Seagard, so because he was quiet, he's very quiet, and he was great with the kids, and he was great with the old people. And it's almost the old people can't get out of the way, so you have to make sure you have somebody a horse that is quiet. But they react to that and they relax to that, you know, as long as, and it's not everybody that's going to have horses like him, but they've all wanted to know, when is he running, and we've started watching racing. And some of them have got parents of their kids. They've got the trips together to go to the races, and they want to know when he's running, because they'll go and watch him. It's kind of got this following because they can communicate, they can relate to this horse that they've given carrots to, or we took a little Shetland along who's his mate, who he goes in the field with, who's incredibly naughty, but obviously he was just pounded. There was like people all over him, and he can get in close, and he can even go inside the schools, or, you know, into the halls and things like that. So it's like Andrew said, it's touching base with nature. And as a farmer as well, I know that is so important, that people have to get back to that with everything that's happening in the world. But particularly if we want to keep racing in touch with what people want, because there's such a massive, massive area of people who literally, other than watching the Grand National, they probably don't know anything or see anything or have any involvement with racing, other than they think it's not for them, it's untouchable. But you know, if we can change that, if we can alter that by getting out there into the community, that is where we start.
It's almost like that moniker that racing got of the sport of kings is now coming back to haunt us, that it's now a problem that people don't see racing as every person's sport, and it becomes that little bit more elusive to them. And this way of bringing them closer seems to make it that little bit more tangible and more possible for them. And Alex, you must see that as well with your work with Greatwood. And does that help for you for rehoming the horses then, that when you've been able to make that connection with people?
It does. Yeah, I was just going to follow up on Joe. I think you saying, Joe, you know, we're obviously the end of the horses. You know, they finish racing, it's the end of their career. And I think it's really important for owners and trainers to realise that these horses can have a career after racing. It's a proven career. You know, they come here and, you know, they're sensitive, intelligent animals. Yes, they're big and not often that, you know, smart as in, you know, world smarts, but they are gentle, they're sensitive, you know, they are brilliant at what they do. And it is a job they can have afterwards. You know, we're seeing it here every day. And we are seeing, with regards to the rehome, you know, the horses that come into us, we have had a couple straight from racing, and they just need time to go, okay, I can be a horse again. And then we work with them to figure out what's best for them next. I mean, not every horse that comes here is going to be suitable for our programs. And we know that, we're fully aware of that, but that doesn't mean that we can't work with them to find them something else to do. And, you know, whether that's low-level dressage, bit of show jumping, happy hacking, whatever, you know, racehorses they can be used for those things. And I think it's really important that people understand that. And, you know, it's brilliant, Joe, that you're fully aware of that. You know what these horses can do. And I'm sure there's lots of other trainers that you in communication with that know that as well. But there are those that go, well, it's the end of the career, you know, what do I do with them? You know, and it just shows that, you know, we're having this discussion today because we know, and like the work the Jennifers do, you know, the research, we know these horses can be used for those things. I think that's really important. Yeah. Sorry, that wasn't your answer to your question,
yeah.
wasn't it?
No, it's very interesting. I'm seeing a real turning point lately on social media in trainers advertising their horses much more for rehoming. It seems to be becoming something that's much more open and outward, rather than it just being you having that link with a yard and getting a horse because you knew it. It seems to be a much more kind of public thing of trainers saying, yes, these horses do need homes and they do need future careers. And Jennifer, I know you've worked a lot with horses after their career. I think one of the things that I've realized from working with thoroughbreds and working with non-race horses is that actually racehorses have an advantage in that they've become used to crowds and moved around and turning up at bustling, lots of things going on, a lot more than your average horse that might have, you know, gone to a few shows or something, but they haven't been put on a horse box and moved from sale to sale and yard to yard. That racehorses are quicker to adapt maybe because they've been doing that since they were foals.
No, absolutely. I think, you know, versatility and being able to adapt quickly to different situations is something thoroughbreds are incredibly good at. And it's quite interesting. And we've been very early stages of like the field trials with the pilot. We're testing out what we're going to do later in field trials. And the Bristol team went across and they were doing these sets of tests, just, you know, to see how the horses react in novel environments and different situations, like opening an umbrella, walking onto a tarpaulin in towards food. Or, I mean, it's quite fascinating. It's like, okay, right, so how's that going to go? And so far it's been really interesting to see how the thoroughbreds out of training have reacted, and their self-control is really strong, perhaps in comparison to another horse. So there's things like this it's interesting to find out. But yeah, no, seeing how there's so much work, and you're going back to what you're saying also about what racing can do. There's so much going on, and there's so much great work being done to show the versatility of horses and the different types of careers. So we're really keen to see how that translates into work with vulnerable populations, because I think that whole issue of would it be safe to work with a racehorse is a big question. So yeah, sorry, I probably didn't answer the question terribly well.
You did. It's perfect. It's also interesting to me. It's a topic that I find fascinating, and I'm always interested to hear other people's takes on it. And Kweilyn, you're from your work with the Ebony Horse Club, you know, we're talking about bringing horses into urban settings. You have one of the most urban settings. That do you think more can be done to bring horses into the urban areas?
Oh, absolutely. There are people who have lived in Brixton their entire life, and they say, oh, we have horses? Where? And they have no idea that there's a tiny little stable tucked away behind the train line. So the majority of our children do live within walking distance in those high-rise estates that we are surrounded by. And they absolutely love it. And there are some people who aren't even members, but on the walk from school to home, they walk past, so they get to look at the horses. They get that little interaction. Pre-COVID days, we would have more open community days where you can just come and sit on the horse and then have someone lead you around. So it's not quite riding, but a led ride. And all of these things have been fantastic in an urban setting. But we also take them out of the urban setting because that's just the first domino piece. And then we have the day trips out into the countryside. And a lot of our children have never even left London. So it's wonderful when they see these horses in the open fields and they're jumping across streams and wading across rivers. They absolutely love it. But in the urban setting, definitely, there is so much scope for so much more to be done.
What would you like to see racing do? What would be your wish for the future if you had a magic lamp?
I would love to see an ebony style model rolled out across the UK. It would be so good if that model could be copied and improved upon to say, right, there's social deprivation in all of these areas. How can we help? And how can we continue helping? How can we continue serving our children? How can we continue serving our community and the needs of those who need us the most?
And have you seen, through getting the children interested in the horses, have you seen them then developing an interest in a career in racing, and in other equestrian sports, and thinking of it as an actual career that they might not have before?
Oh, definitely. Right now, we have 2 youngsters applying for places at the British Racing School. We have 12 young, I think it's 12, perhaps 13 young people working in the equine industry right now. And these are not opportunities that they would have had or they would have considered having for careers were it not for Ebony, were it not for the facility being on their doorstep.
I definitely think every city needs an ebony horse club. I think it's a brilliant idea. I'm fully behind you in that campaign, Kweilyn. You can count on my support. And Alex, the same question to you. If what would you like to see us doing in racing? What would be your kind of magic wish if you could do one thing and improve it? What area would you like to see it improving in?
That's a good question. Again, I think we've talked about a lot. It's just kind of more, I suppose, awareness of what these horses can actually be used for. Because, when people think about equine therapy, they do think of your ponies, your cobs, your Shetland ponies, that type of thing. And actually understanding that these horses can be used, it's that career is there for them afterwards. And I think just raising awareness of that and engaging more with, Ebony Riding Club ourselves, and just kind of going, right, so what route do we, if you've got people that are on your yard that are youngsters who are coming for day visits or whatever, what can we do to support them? So signpost them to our programs, make them aware of this is what we're doing, this is what we're using the horses for. And I think it's just about raising awareness more than anything. The racing community are very supportive for us anyway. We're lucky, as I said, we're surrounded by trainers. We take our students out so one of our programs, it's a week-long program. They go for a morning on the gallop, so they can see that third lot normally, because we don't get up that early. So it's the third lot. And then they have a nice tour around and they get to chat to the staff. And it is opening their eyes to a career that's, crying out for staff. And I think that's really important, that connection's maintained and it's there and we're supporting each other.
Are there any plans in particular that Great would have in the coming months, and that you want to share with us and tell us more about?
So we're always looking, a lot of our programs, the core for our programs are particularly at the moment, we're seeing a lot of young people come to us with poor mental health, poor emotional well-being. So we're looking to support those side of things. We're also, obviously the care home project, we're looking to move forward more with. And actually with that, what I would like to do is get more data, that hard data, and go, this is the impact these horses are having, this is what's working. Because the anecdotal, the feedbacks are lovely, the kind of this is how we feel, but actually what is actually happening, what changes are there. But also we're looking at things like using our horses. I'm not a therapist, so I don't like to say we're using therapy. The horses, I suppose you could argue, with therapists, but we're opening up to more things. Like myself and my colleague are we're both educated we're mindfulness teachers, so we've got master's qualifications in that. So using that and combining the horses, we're currently in talks with Wiltshire Police to get work with their staff to support on a programme we're creating, and we're hopefully, we are starting next month with the Harbour Project in Swindon, which is a refugee and immigration kind of centre, if you like, and we're working with them. So there are a few programmes that we're really excited about that are coming up. And we're continuing with our core programmes, so our horsepower and our developing confidence with primary schools and secondary schools. And then we've also got the 2 programmes, we call it Get Going and Initial Bits, which are our 2 preparation programmes. So it's the NEAT individuals, so not in employment, education or training, inviting them to a program to go, this is what you can do. Some of them come in and go, actually, I don't want to work with horses at all because they're smelly, it's hard work and I don't want to get up that early. And that's fine. At least they then know they don't want to work with horses. So yeah, we've always got things going and we're always trying to kind of move forward with it. So there's lots going on at the moment. Keep an eye on our website.
That's a good plug. But Jennifer, Alex has raised the point there that it's trying to judge the impact that horses are having, that they can all, you know, all of you have seen individually the impact that it had when you took them out into the community. How do we measure the impact that a horse has on somebody?
That's a very, very big question. So obviously from so our research work, we're very much looking from the horse's perspective, which is kind of novel. There's quite a few studies going on about the human impact. So we're not in that space just yet. We're looking from the horse's perspective, but we're hoping throughout the study, which is going to go on for another 2 or 3 years, to combine with other great projects looking at that human impact. And I think essentially what we've set up to do is to any information opportunities we're having for that learning and shared knowledge and increasing that data and evidence base is then shared with programs, you know, like Great Wood, like Ebony Horse Club, like with everybody. We've had incredible support from the racing community so far, and thoroughbred charities and the John Pierce Foundation helped us to get the study together, for example. And I think it's just, for me, that deeper collaboration among racing. There's so much great work going on to build up this, build up the data and this kind of information. But I think deeper collaborations and less working in silos, you know, so we share. That's essentially why we set up the Thoroughbred Assisted platform. We called it Thoroughbred Assisted because there's so many different types of assistance and different ways of doing. Just hopefully to pull all these things together and create this resource so people understand what the thoroughbreds are going to go into, for example. But yeah, so.
I think it's also fascinating. We have a question from Kate Freeman who says, great discussion, guys. Thank you. Do you think the significant rise of mental health issues offers an opportunity for these programs to support the wider community further into the future? And the bigger question, how do we give these incredible initiatives scale? Don't know, does anybody in particular want to answer that question?
I can try and answer the first part, in which I would hope that we could sort of find a niche here, and as trainers particular, we could offer our services. Those of us who think we can do, and I'm sure there's, you know, around the country there are plenty, I know in the north, that would be interested. If we could, you know, they just need to be given the nod and told what to do, and I'm sure they would go out and do it, especially at times when we're quieter. So and I do think getting the racehorses out there to those people who are suffering, they are desperate to be involved. You know, they just, I had email after email after email of people wanting to do it. So I think there's a big opening, and yeah, I mean, I would love to think that we can try and fill that void, because particularly after the last 2 years, I think it's probably a much needed service we could potentially offer. But I don't know how to answer the second part.
Kweilyn, I was going to come to you next. I said you're perfectly placed to answer that question for us.
When I think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, then this is where we can actually really, really help our children, because we're giving them the friendship, the family, and then we're also helping their self-esteem, their confidence, their respect for themselves, their respect for others. And only when each step within the hierarchy of need is met can someone actually progress to the next step. And all of these lead to self-actualization. We would like you to be the best that you can be. And that can only happen when the mental health is in a more stable place. A lot of our children have extreme challenges that they face. So when they come to us, that's their safety net. When I think of some of our case studies, Some of them are on the autistic spectrum. We have a school that we take the horses to. So some of the children have 2 carers, and then they still come. There are some children who can't even independently walk to the horses, so the horses go to them, but it helps tremendously. And when you see the smile on these children's faces, you can't help but feeling that smile stretching into you, and it makes such a difference. Their physical disabilities, their mental disabilities, lots of things. This is where our wonderful manager would have so much more to say on it, because she does the day-to-day running, but everything shows us all of our personal statistics, how we track the progress that our children have made, show that it's tremendously helpful for their mental health and overall well-being.
That must be even more so the case, Kweilyn, in since the pandemic, with the fact that so many children have been locked up for so long, that now being able to explore new areas and being able to see animals that maybe that they couldn't during the pandemic.
Absolutely. And during the pandemic, we couldn't have them come to the yard. We had to send the horses away, which was heartbreaking. But all we could do was support them online, play games, do yoga, do cooking, find something to do to engage them. So then the support and the safety net is still there, because yes, we are still your family. We are still here for you in the maximum capacity that we can be. We just have to alter the manner in which that is. But throughout lockdowns, all of the lockdowns, the children have all said, oh, they can't wait. And they would look at the photos they have of themselves with the horses, and that takes them through the day.
Yeah,
I love that you describe it as a family. I think that is a great word for describing how they must feel. It's very heartwarming to hear the description of it. And Alex, one of the questions we've got from Helen Sharp has come in. Perhaps scale can be done if owners can be encouraged to contribute towards racehorses' transitional stage from track to second career. That sounds like something aimed at your role in Greatwood.
Yeah, I completely. I mean, obviously, it's not cheap to keep horses. They are expensive animals, and I think all of us that here, funding is a huge thing, and it would depend on the owner. But looking at the transition, not just financially, but also preparing that horse, almost getting it used to not being a racehorse again, rather than coming straight from the track to somewhere like us and going, right, what am I doing now? What's going on next? We've got the facilities to do that, but it's educating those owners, going, so this is what your horse is going to be doing, and following it all the way through, rather than going, right, here's the end of your journey, you're now at Greatwood, that's, or wherever. And I think, to raise kind of the owner's awareness, I think that's really important as well. Yeah.
I think the majority of owners would like there to be, a structured program that they could, the majority of owners love their horses. They don't see them as just an entity, and they would love to see that structure.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And we get a lot of owners that come and still visit their horses, 10, 15 years down the line. And it's those owners that we really appreciate, and we kind of go, yes, we want you to, keep supporting your horse, because he's, at the end, as you said, it's their horse. Same with you were saying, Kweilyn, about the students with they have their pictures of their horse. The owners are very similar. They go, that's my horse. That's what you did. This is what, and we have open days, and we have owners that have got one of our horses out with them, and they bring photographs, and, they've got albums, and they show us, and they're really proud of these horses, which is lovely to see, And I think, Kweilyn, you summed up what you just said there about the impact was fantastic. You summed up really well. One of our students recently she did a little kind of case study for her, and she just said, life is good again, I'm happy. And that's all we needed to hear. That was really nice to hear from our point of view.
That's the best 5-star review you can possibly
exactly. We don't need anything else. We're done. We've achieved it. Yeah.
Someone tells you they're happy, that's the goal.
Yeah.
And what is, we've had a comment here, more a comment then from Sarah Lally, who said an interesting book to read on equine-assisted learning therapy for mental health is The Horse Leads the Way by Angela Dunning. Definitely worth a read if you're interested in horses supporting people with mental health issues. So anybody who's more interested on this topic, who's reading and are joining in this panel, I'm sure that they would enjoy reading. So thank you, Sarah, for that suggestion. But Jennifer, before we wrap up, I've asked Kweilyn and Alex their genie wish question, which is my favorite question to ask at the end of these panels, because it's great what you get from people in an ideal world. I'll ask you, Jennifer, and then Joe, if you had your magic genie wish, what would you like to see racing achieve for the future of your program?
Gosh, there's a quite a big wish list. But I think ultimately is the work we're doing to help racing and everybody else understand what equine-assisted sector is doing and how it all works, and then taking that forward into sort of evidence-based retraining and selection and everything else. I think the wish would be for implementation, for that sort of coordinated effort towards putting the protocols and guidelines in place that hopefully we come out with, and as we draw from all along the program, which it's not just the work that Bristol are doing, it's the work that's going on everywhere else, which is fascinating, and what we're bringing together. I mean, you've got the new HARE network, which is looking at the different standards and qualifications and a register of who's doing this work in the UK, for example, which is hugely important. And we're really excited to be sort of coordinating with them, so our horse welfare work can join in with their work. Yeah, I think it's just working together on implementation, ensuring that the horses' transitions are supported, whether that be by funding. That wouldn't be our role at this point. I mean, obviously we'd love to, in a dream world, to have a fund that we could distribute to these programs, but now I think it's just working together to implement, so it's the best story for the horse and for the people that they end up serving.
Thanks for that. And Joe, we'll come to you. You kind of set the bar high with your racehorse day when you took your horse out into the community. What can we expect this year? How are you going to top that?
Well, we'll be doing it not just in racing, National Racehorse Week. We've got the school wants us to go back, just to sort of see. They've got some special needs children. This is the grammar school. That are interested in the like equine-assisted programs. So we are possibly their first introduction to it. So we're going back to do that anyway. And then obviously what I would love to see is National Racehorse Week. Instead of us getting people to come in, I would like us to see us all start going out as well. So there's a bit of a mix of both, because it's like, if we've proved anything, it's the inner cities and those people who don't get the chance to mix with animals and farm animals and racehorses or anything. We can then be the first step in the introduction, and I think as trainers we can do that. And also, you were talking about owners. You see, my owner came along with us. My owner was really keen, and I think owners would be really keen to be involved in this, because it's more. Racing is only just part of the story for them. Going racing, they love to be involved with the horses. And if I said, oh, you've got a horse that we can go and do this with and introduce to, take to the old people's homes and show this, they'd be like, oh yeah, great. Can we come along too? Can we sort of be involved? Because it's the whole story. I mean, this is how racing has changed. It's attracting people who aren't, extremely wealthy or anything like that, but they want something to be part of it, and it helps not only us and them, but obviously also the people you're taking them to. So that's what I would really like to see. And it won't take a magic wand to do it. And the thing is with this industry is we look after so many people, we look after our staff so well, we try so hard to be an umbrella for everybody. And I know that there's so many charities wanting to do this, that they'll open their arms and welcome this. So that's a great opportunity to be in.
No, I think there's been a fascinating conversation from all of our panelists. Gabby Whitfield has said, absolutely agree, Joe, and Nigel Payne, who's put some interesting comments in the chat as well. National Racehorse Week will be developed this year to put community outreach and storytelling around the human-horse connection at its heart. So that's great to hear that we're developing that future. And I think National Racehorse Week is only going to grow and grow with time. Well, thank you all. Unfortunately, we've run out of time. This was always going to be a topic that everybody was going to have lots of interesting things to say, but I will thank all of our panelists because it's been fascinating for me to get to sit here and listen to you all. So I hope everybody watching at home has enjoyed it too. You can of course watch this back on the Racing Together website as on YouTube as a podcast and on the video. A survey will pop up at the end, so please fill it out and let us know your feedback, and if there's anything you would like us to do in the future. Hopefully we'll have more of these webinar series in the future. And thank you to all the panelists throughout all 6 webinars. You can watch all of them back, so please do. There's been some great topics covered. And finally, a reminder on the Racing Together Community Day, which will be on the 5th of May this year, and that's Racing's National Day of Volunteering, so another really great cause. So please get behind back. But thank you to all of our panelists for joining us, and thank you for everybody for watching. Thank you very much.